the pinnacle puts over as always. So.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 1 Million Cups Sioux Falls. I am Brian Meyer, the Executive Director of Zeal Center for Entrepreneurship and a member of the 1 Million Cups Organizing Committee. Before we get to the rest of our announcements, it was 2 years ago that 1 Million Cups organizing member and entrepreneur Matt Paulson engaged the mayor's office in celebration of 1 Million Cups' 5th anniversary and asked the mayor to speak to the importance of entrepreneurship in the community and declare a special day in our honor. The March 6th event was one of the highlights of 1 Million Cups' existence and reaffirmed the importance of investing in our startup community. Thanks to the leadership and foresight of passionate and invested founders founders like Matt Paulson and John Meyer. Just 2 years later, our city holiday is official, and the community is stronger than ever before. Mayor Paul TenHaken has proclaimed the first Wednesday in March as Sioux Falls Entrepreneurship Day. It's so wonderful to live in a city that values and invests in entrepreneurship. For all of our founders tuning in today, we see you. We're here to support you for the betterment of the city of Sioux Falls. I also want to give a special shout out to all of the 1 Million Cups organizing members, past and present: John Meyer, Addie Graham Kramer, Melissa Goodwin, Rob Nelson, Samantha Bucknell, Charlotte Kattenberg, Computer Craig, Maureen Ohm, Sarah Shea, Andy Jorgensen, Valerie Ector, Matt Paulson, Matt Stone, Beth Broadbrooks, Amos Kittleson, Peter Hauk, and Sadie Swear. It literally takes a village to create a vibrant community, and we really appreciate the perseverance of those who have got us here. Here's to the future of the startup ecosystem. Happy Sioux Falls Entrepreneurship Day. All right. High fives. All right, so just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. We're live streaming from Pinnacle Production Studios today. If you're joining us on the Zoom platform, feel free to post your questions in the chat. You can introduce yourself, share your contact information or events in the chat. We want you guys to network with one another. Looks like we've got a good crowd today. Looks like, what is that, 63? Amazing. 603 people are tuned in. During the Q&A after the speakers present, you can post your questions on the Zoom chat or use the raise hand function to be called on and ask your question live. And if you're tuning in over Facebook, post your questions in the comments of the live video and we'll make sure to ask your question. Why do we host 1 Million Cups? Every Wednesday, over 160 communities meet at 9 a.m. to give each other support, encouragement, and feedback over a cup of coffee. We thank the Kauffman Foundation for its support of the Sioux Falls chapter and chapters all across the country. If you're interested in presenting, please reach out to anyone on the organizing committee for details on how to apply. And if you're a regular to these events, we'd encourage you to bring a friend or a colleague along next time. Is there anyone here at 1 Million Cups today that would like to introduce themselves? I see a lot of faces on this call. I don't know that I recognize every face. If anybody wants to be brave. Yeah, go ahead, John.
If anybody was at the very first 1 Million Cups, which was about 7 years ago, put in the chat if you were there where it was. Because I'm just like, it's amazing how far we've come. We have this incredible studio and these lights and these screens up here. Because if anybody was there, it was we were in the corner of Queen City Bakery. We asked Mitch Jackson if we could use the spot, and he kind of shoved us in the corner so we didn't like annoy too many people. And I think 3 weeks later he kicked us out because we did annoy too many people. We had about 30 people there. Our friend Andy Traub was our first speaker.
Right. Okay.
I think Carla White spoke there, Hugh Weber spoke there, and then we ended up at what was the Design Center for about a whole year. So this is just a little event that could, and it just keeps growing.
We've come so far.
We really have.
Oh, that's awesome. It's so cool to hear the history. Anyone want to introduce themselves this morning? Maybe you're all old. Yeah. This old hat to you. Okay.
That's good.
A lot of regulars.
A lot of regulars here today.
Okay
so next, if there's any community events or announcements to share, we'd love to hear those. And I know Zeal and Startup Sioux Falls, we've got a lot of details we need to share. So if somebody from the team wants to talk about Sioux Falls Entrepreneurship Day and what's going on today, that'd be awesome. Maybe?
I can talk about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
So it is Sioux Falls Entrepreneurship Day. We celebrated it 2 years ago. COVID screwed it up last year, but we were hoping to make it a regular holiday moving forward. The other kind of big event we are doing today is a tap room and brewery tour at Fernson at their their brew factory. If you're interested in more information about that and want to RSVP, free to attend, but we would like you to register on Eventbrite. Just go to startupsiouxfalls.com. Scroll down to the bottom and there's a link it's a Startup Social Fernson Brewery Tap Room. And then you can RSVP on Eventbrite and just let us know you're coming. It'll be a good event. If you've never seen Fernson's kind of how they brew, it's just really interesting. A lot of equipment, a lot of money went into it, and it is just something to see. So I'd encourage you all to show up if you're available at 4. We'll be wearing masks. We do everything safely that we can, and hopefully some of you can make it out.
Awesome. Thank you. And just to add to that, there's going to be a lot of activity on our social media pages. So tune in to the Startup Sioux Falls Zeal page for a mini documentary that is going to drop, or I think it already did drop, didn't it, Carla? So Carla Santi is featured of Blend Interactive, who's also on our board of directors. She's got a really great story to tell. We also shared Walter Portz's story from Helen's Plan, who's going to be presenting next week, as well as our Hey Sioux Falls annual awards event is set for May 20th. And today the tickets are available for sale. So they're $10 this year. We have limited seating because of the pandemic, but it's also going to be a hybrid event. And more importantly, nominations are now open. So if you go to, is it HeySiouxFalls.com? Yep. You can submit your nominations for notable entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial champions in the community. It's really important, especially this past year, that we celebrate all that they've accomplished.
Yeah, we have 5 categories open for awards and one new one, which makes sense, which is we're calling it the pivot of the year. So a business or person that had to really change their business because of the pandemic. So it's a good time to just shine the light and support all those who work tirelessly to build their business and those that support them too.
And I can tell you that Zeal and Startup Sioux Falls have some exciting announcements, so you'll want to tune into that event.
Cool.
Who else has
I would like
an event they
to
want to share?
myself real briefly from past. I was at the Design Center. This is Rick Eltop calling.
Hey.
It was, I'm convalescing right now, and I want to just simply say that how healthy this has been. The whole Million Cups entourage has been very healthy for the entire community.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
We're an entourage. I love it.
He's right though. Like I look at these screens here, and I see my wife, I see my mom, and Brookings is watching.
Hi.
Our banker, like all these people. It does truly take, you said at the beginning, like a village to support a business and to make a business go. Not just the team or the co-founders or the employees. And so this has been such an awesome little, just circle of friends to support you in this community.
Well said. Anyone else? Events?
Well, you already know that there's some things going on in downtown Sioux Falls. So I just have to insert myself real quick because my name is Sadie and I'm the community outreach coordinator at downtown Sioux Falls. And I just have to say, I remember my first 1 million cups at Prairie Berry was in college and I just completely fell in love with it. It was amazing. We go way back, 1 million cups tonight. But of course, it is March 1st, Friday this weekend, and kicking off another competition that's brewing in Sioux Falls. And this is the annual competition between 5 local breweries, very similar to Burger Battle in January. But a lot of great local breweries are making unique brews that you can't usually find on the menu. And for the whole month of March, you can vote on them on the DTSF Digital Passport app. And it's going to be a great way to support them and enjoy the beautiful weather that we have right now. And one more other thing I want to highlight happening this weekend is 2 local businesses on Entrepreneurship Weekend are celebrating 12 years in business, and it's their business anniversary, Chelsea's Boutique and Say Anything Jewelry.
Nice.
So how cool is that? So they're having some sales as well throughout the whole week, but especially this weekend. So find more info at dtsf.com.
Thank you, Sadie. That's
Thank you.
really exciting. Congrats to Chelsea and Say Anything. That's
cool.
Awesome. Who else? Anyone else?
Yeah, Brian.
Carla?
Sorry.
Sarah Carnes, you go first, and then we'll go Carla.
All right. So I was at the first 1 million cups if we're doing memories. And obviously the reason I'm in Sioux Falls is because of John Meyer. So everything comes full circle. So I was just going to share that our next webinar is at 9 Clouds. So I work at 9 Clouds to give that context, is going to be kind of a mailbag Q&A. So kind of just answering people's digital marketing questions. So I'm just going to share that form in the chat, and feel free to submit your digital marketing questions for our April webinar.
Thanks, Sarah. Carla.
Yeah, I was just going to add that on today, our Entrepreneurship Day in Sioux Falls, I think it's important to remember that entrepreneurs really need to support each other too. You guys heard that there's a tour at Fernson Brewery this afternoon, and Derek Fern Holtz actually was my employee. So he was a developer at Blend Interactive, And I remember the day he walked into my office with that look, like, you never know what's going to come out, but you know it's not good. And he's like, well, I'm going to start a new business. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to have another web development firm I'm going to have to compete with. He's like, no, a brewery. I'm like, how can I help? This is so awesome. I know it's your passion. And so we actually helped him in a transition from his full-time job at Blend to getting the brewery up and running a few months later. So I think it's just important to really support each other in their ventures and understand and believe in them. And that comes from us entrepreneurs in our community supporting others.
What a great story and message. Thank you, Carla. Anybody else?
Yeah, Brienne.
Anything?
Hi, Brienne. This is Bill Anderson from the First National Bank of Sioux Falls, and I'm the board chair for the Zeal Startup Sioux Falls Board of Directors. Just want to commend this event and also just recommend Zeal and Startup Sioux Falls has a whole lot of exciting things coming up in the next several months. The team there at Zeal has been preparing these past several months to really launch some exciting things. Co-starters cohort 2. Applications are up and running, which is super exciting. The first program has been great. Eric Weiser has been an awesome facilitator for that process. And this really intended to grow successful businesses and to help businesses look to opportunities to either start or to expand in the community. So we would really encourage you to be part of that program and keep your eye out for what's happening at Zeal and Startup Sioux Falls, which is a whole lot of exciting stuff over the course of the next 3 months.
Thank you so much, Bill. And thank you for your support as a board member and also First National Bank as a sponsor. I think they've been with us almost since the beginning.
Ever since we started having sponsors. Yeah.
Yep. So thank you. Anybody else?
So I'll just give my weekly reminder about the I2I competition at Beacom USD. Deadline is March 24th, and we're really looking for both college and high school participants from the Sioux Falls area. You can get more information at usd.edu/I2I.
Thanks, Aaron. Anybody else? Last call.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Thing in there?
Oh, hey, Ty.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
You know, I just wanted to jump in. This is the first time I've actually sat in on a 1 million cups, and I've been invited on a couple of occasions. Unfortunately, I'll be honest, it's on me. I just haven't come, but I'm here.
We'll forgive you.
I'm here, and I'm excited to be a part of it. But I wanted to jump off of the co-starters thing that Bill was talking about. I'm the next facilitator, as you know, and many people are now getting to know, and I'm excited actually to leverage this opportunity. As you know, Bill was saying, we want you guys all to be involved, other entrepreneurs to be involved. So I want to reach out to you guys, show you who I am, reach out to me, and I'm going to be reaching out to many of you as possible guest speakers to have people come in, share their stories, and connect with some of these up and coming entrepreneurs. I think it's very beneficial for you all to share your stories with them and for them to share some ideas with you, because you know what it was like to try to build a business and having to leverage people that and having people help you out. And so we want to kind of pay it forward. So I'm going to reach out to as many of you as I can, and if any of you want to volunteer, please reach out to me, and then we can kind of roll you into the curriculum.
Thank you so much, Ty. I think it's pretty evident in Ty's voice how excited and passionate he is about this, and we are so thrilled to have him on the team. Double thumbs up, dude.
I've never met Ty. That's great.
He's amazing.
Cool.
So there you go. New connections. Anybody else? Even if it's not an event, if you want to say something, this is your time. All right. Well, we're going to move on then. We have 2 presenters today, and our featured guests are marketing and entrepreneurial visionaries with a remarkable story to tell. And we're thrilled to have them here on this Sioux Falls Entrepreneurship Day. Here to share the details about their partnership and acquisition are ClickRain CEO Natalie Eisenberg and outgoing former, the man formerly known as the CEO of Lemonly, John Meyer.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here.
Thank you. We're excited.
Yes.
Thanks for having us.
I think we just want to hear a little bit from the both of you.
Yeah, our hope today is probably not the typical 6-minute talk with the presentation deck, but I think we wanted to take a chance to share from both sides of the table how this event happened and how we got this deal done. I think as an entrepreneur, as a founder of a business, originally 9 Clouds 12 years ago, and Lemonly almost 10 years ago, we often wonder, is there a finish line or an exit at some point, or what transition or a handoff, and I think everybody's story is different, and but we wanted to unpack our story as one example of many options. And so I know Amy's on the call. Amy Moore, my business partner, co-founder of Lemonly. I would say at the start of 2020, which feels like a decade ago, we started talking about what does Lemonly look like when we turn 20 years old? Because in 2021 we'll turn 10 years old. We started to ask ourselves that question. I also know on the call, Mike Ritter is on the call. Mike Ritter is a phenomenal resource. He does EOS implementation, traction. I know
he's worked with
ClickRain does traction. I know Zeal does traction. So a big part of that traction, if you're a small business owner, is thinking about really like, what happens if someone gets hit by a bus, or the idea of succession planning, or making sure that every role is accounted for with responsibilities and job descriptions. And as a small 17-person business, we probably admittedly didn't have all that. And so we started asking ourselves, like, okay, Lemonly is going to be 10. What does it look like to be 20? And when we started the company in 2011, it was on the concept of we're going to do one thing, and we're going to do one thing really, really well, which was infographics. And that worked, right? We did that. We're one of the world's best, I believe. I think we are the best.
Yes.
And that's led us to work with companies like Marriott and Netflix and Major League Baseball and Snapchat and Salesforce and the Green Bay Packers and the World Bank, all these brands you've heard of. But in an increasingly competitive landscape, we're also very niche and boutique. And sometimes clients wish we could do more, or they ask us to point them in another direction, or, so we started thinking about how do we expand the services without completely reinventing ourselves when we're already known for something, right? So that was a big part of it. And this idea of what does Lemonly look like a decade from now? And so just to unpack that story a little bit, actually tomorrow we're dropping an episode of my podcast, the Lead More podcast. Natalie is my guest, and we're talking about how this conversation started with a coffee in January of last year. But frankly, Amy and I, we wanted to do our due diligence and cast the net wide. We talked to, there are M&A firms out there that can take your company to market. We talked to a company out of Pittsburgh that takes agencies and goes and finds potential buyers. We looked at one of our biggest competitors out of California, a software company in Phoenix. And we just kept coming back to this idea of the things that are important to us at Lemonly is doing incredible work for our clients and building a great culture, a place where people want to work. And it so happened to be that we think the company that cares, equally or second most to us about culture was just down the street in ClickRain. And so when we started to have those conversations initially with Eric, and then when Natalie and Amy joined in, a lot of things felt right. And I think we talked about on the podcast, it's kind of this weird kind of dating, like feeling each other out and seeing if it's the right fit and if it's going to be a good home, and what's your vision, what's our vision. And then of course the pandemic happened. And so I'll be honest, as a founder, I definitely didn't think this would happen in 2020. I thought it was probably pump the brakes and maybe in 2021 or beyond. And so we sort of reset the clock, put our heads down and kept working. And in August, we reconnected, and Lemonly we had a job. We were hiring and growing and busy. ClickRain was hiring and growing and busy. So I think we both feel super blessed to get through a pandemic, or still in a pandemic, but to have a growing business, a thriving business, and really this idea of being better together. And so that's when this conversation started. We signed the paperwork on New Year's Eve, 2020, and officially announced it in mid-January. And so now we are about, it's been a blur, 6-7 weeks in, and working through all these transition pieces and what does it mean for the team. And ClickRain, I will say, has been phenomenal in everything that they said and promised. They've kept their word, and we're running these two sister companies that we are starting just now to scratch the surface of how we will share services and level up for our clients. And so I think I'll stop there. That's a good, I don't want to take too much of your thunder, but.
That's all right. Well, it's good to see everyone this morning. And before I get into acquisition material, I just want to commend all of you that have been so supportive of this whole community. And I feel like a bit of a honorary member of the entrepreneurial committee and community of Sioux Falls. I'm not a founder, but I've replaced a couple. Yeah. And so it's a different type of experience for me, but I've always wanted to start a company. And so I haven't done it, but I will.
I'd say you've done enough.
So, it's amazing what can happen over a coffee, and that's just what kind of got started.
Which is
a little
really
over
the
a year
concept
ago.
of 1 million cups,
It
right?
is.
I would say that.
Truly, yes. One of my business partners, Eric Ellefson, had coffee with John, and really, John, if you know John, he's a very direct person, and he just shared that he and Amy were thinking about selling the business. And at ClickRain, we knew that if we wanted a nice big growth spurt, we were going to need to acquire a company. And we're also very focused in digital. And we didn't necessarily want to widen our span outside of digital, but deepening our service offerings with what Lemonly can offer in their specialty in infographics was definitely intriguing to us. So it all started with that coffee, and then, none of us had gone through this process before. So it was a learning experience for all of us to go through the process of, the transactional steps. Yep. And I would just say, just if you ever do take those steps, just, one step at a time, and you'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's emotional, right?
There's all the emotional stuff, which, you work through in your own ways, but transactionally, it really wasn't that hard or that complicated. But the compatibility testing of one another, I think, was maybe more of the journey, at least for me, really getting to know you guys and knowing whether or not we would be able to work well together. And actually, after we had that initial, second coffee that brought the four of us together, I had the feeling like I could definitely work with these guys, and it got me really excited. So that's when we really started on the track. So we're just super. What we saw in Lemonly at the beginning of this process was a super strong team of great people, a team that values excellence in their work and wants to deliver the best. A brand, the super power little brand of Lemonly that was, so well put together and so thoughtful and so strong that what's not to like, and it just so happened too that from a brand perspective and a service perspective and a culture perspective, we were a really great match. Mm-hmm. So everything kind of came together really nicely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What a beautiful story. Seriously. And we were talking before this about, you could have gone anywhere else. You could have gone to New York. You could have gone to Silicon Valley. You kept it here in Sioux Falls. And there's just something to be said about that. And I think it's such a huge win for our community. So thank you both for your leadership.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I do want to get to questions, but I was also thinking about this. Natalie, you and I went to high school together, so I kind of looked up to you in high school. You're a year older than me. John, we've known each other for quite some time.
Way back. Yeah.
And I think about how far we've come as leaders and how we've been put into these roles all of a sudden. And all of my colleagues, my colleague is the mayor of Sioux Falls all of a sudden.
Yeah, sure.
I just want to talk a little bit about the leadership journey. We're trying to become a city of mentors here, and we're well on our way to doing that. But I think getting a little bit of insight from the both of you, who I think some people put up on a pedestal as they've got this, they know what they're doing, they've never struggled. I assume you have, and you've doubted yourself over time. Can you talk a little bit about your journey to leadership?
Mm-hmm.
You want to go first, or?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah. You're right about the first thing is that nobody has it all figured out, right? That we're all learning as we go. I could argue that starting Lemonly is my second business after starting Nine Clouds. They're kind of we're born out of the same thing. But I tweeted this last night. After 10 years, I feel like I've learned so much. Being an entrepreneur, nothing will teach you faster, in my opinion. But I still feel like I know so little, right? And to Natalie's point, what is it like to sell a company? What is it like to buy a company? We had advisors, we had lawyers, we had bankers to help us. But you don't know until you do it, right? And so now we've done it. And I think leaders are definitely, we talked about this on our episode tomorrow. I believe leaders are made, not born. Mm-hmm. And so it's the matter of passing that baton and giving other people the opportunity. Yep. And then also understanding that they might trip up and they might make mistakes, but they will learn from those mistakes and improve. And so I think both cultures have a great emphasis on allowing the team to develop and to grow. And that was a big pitch to our team at Lemonly, because change is hard, right? Like this is change. But my 17 folks now have more opportunity, you know, in a company of what are we going to be now, 56 or something like that, than they did as 17.
Yeah.
You know, and so leadership chances, managing people, trying new roles, working with different clients, that's all a great opportunity. So I love that aspect of we need more leaders.
Yeah.
And how do we pass that baton?
Absolutely.
Well, it is. It's always interesting to reflect on this question for me because I still wake up every day and have insecurities and doubts, but I also have a confidence about what I know and what I can do, and so I think it's really important to know thyself and really just trust the skills and the knowledge and the experience that you do have, and then think about too, what don't you know? What do you want to know? And resource yourself to get there. So, you know, I'm always learning. I jumped into this position with very little administrative background and really learned accounting and projecting and HR and benefits planning and those types of things on the fly. But you know, asking all the questions and figuring things out as you go. Everything is figure outable. Yes. And I heard from a speaker years ago. It was Barb Stork. I mentioned this on the pod. And she had purchased or got herself into a refrigeration business, and she had no background in refrigeration, but she got in there and she asked all the questions and she kept asking them, simplify it more, until she got the handle on it. And there she went, and she built a great company out of that. And so everything we want to know is doable. Yeah. And you just have to want it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
That's a good question.
That was great. Questions out there? I don't see any hands raised. I don't see anything in the chat just yet, but there's got to be some questions. Sadie Swear.
Hello. Thank you so much for talking about this. And I have to say, just as a young professional, listening to your stories, it's amazing to hear how your stories are resonating with what I'm feeling right now, and that we still have struggles and challenges, no matter if we even seem like we have it all figured out. But my question is, as a young professional in the Sioux Falls community, what do you have as advice for getting involved, or what are some next steps or items that we should be doing to make Sioux Falls even better for the future generations to come as we're stepping into our leadership positions?
That's great.
I think one thing I look back on my career and wish I would have done more of is just when I saw somebody I admired, I wish I would have reached out and connected with that person, because now I know that they would have responded to me more than likely really, really positively. At the time, you know, when I was earlier on in my career, mentorship wasn't quite as common of a concept. Yeah. And so I didn't have a lot of those active mentors, but I wish I would have reached out more and just said, hey, can I stop by for a half an hour and hear about what you do? And then, you know, I also oftentimes remind some of my staff that's so growth focused and so, you know, wanting to be promoted. I often say, enjoy where you're at also, you know, with growth in your career comes a lot of responsibility, comes a lot of more, you know, sometimes the topics are heavier that you're dealing with. And I do look back on my earlier years and wish I would have recognized that a little more and enjoyed it.
Slow it down a little bit. Yeah. I'd echo like what Natalie said about, I think people underestimate how willing others are to give up their time, or like people like to talk about themselves. People like to talk about their journey. And so if you reach out to a leader and say, hey, could I grab you grab coffee, or even a Zoom call nowadays, right? People are happy to do that. And I think there's this perception as a young professional, like they're too busy, they don't have time for me. They won't want to do that. And that's what I love about South Dakota, right? We're all like 2 connections away from everybody anyway. And so there's really nobody that shouldn't be within your reach. And the worst thing they can do is just say no.
Right.
So they might as well ask.
Yep. And that's honestly why Zeal Center and Startup Sioux Falls launched a mentor network ourselves, to let you know, like, there are all these people out there, including, I think you're on the page for sure. But reach out to us and go through our channels if you're not comfortable reaching out to somebody directly. We've got those.
Yeah, I Zoomed with Walter and Chris just the other day.
Nice.
Can I add something?
Yeah, of course.
So in an era where just the topic right now is side parts and skinny jeans, but I think ageism is something that we can talk about a little more too, because there are lessons to be learned in all the generations. And, even if you're 25 years old, don't rule out talking to a 65-year-old professional or retiree, because there is a lot to be learned across the spectrum from a lot of people.
Even Rick said in the chat, to your point about starting a business, right? He's like, it's never too late. Like, we still have time.
That is
absolutely.
All right, we got a couple questions in the chat. Sarah Lum asks, for founders who are just starting, what is your advice for building strong relationships between founders, or in Natalie's case, strong relationships between leaders of the organization?
All right.
I saw something in the context of startups. I think about 70% of startups fail because of founder conflict. And I think that was staggering, right? Like, you're already against the odds when you're starting a company.
Yep.
You're trying to figure out if your idea makes sense, if people want that, and we're almost losing it. Sorry, Jeff, my mic. I dropped my mic. And now we're gonna like crumble from the inside because we don't get along with our business partner, right? And so, and I think that idea of working through. Sorry, I guess Sarah just said we can't hear you. So the point was 70% of startups fail because of co-founder like relationships. So it's hard enough to start a business, but if you don't get along with your business partner, that's even worse. And so honesty, transparency, like open communication. If you feel something, talk about it. I would say this is something that Amy and I have had to work on over time. It wasn't like our default setting. We both are very good specialties, and that we fit together from a like skills and talent standpoint. But we had to build that co-founder relationship, and I'm not sure how you guys have done it in transition. But if you aren't on the same page, it's not going to work.
Yeah, just having that mutual respect and wanting to, everybody at the table just really has to want to keep things strong and keep things professional. And so finding the right people to work with is so important. But, for me, there are those moments of conflict, and that's one of the things that, is more common as you elevate in your career. And you just learn that the conflicts are right here. The conflicts don't have to be here. So it's not about a person to person. Well, it can be. It can get personal, but we all have to just remember to put the issue on the table, battle it out, and be able to high five at the end and say, we figured that out. And I may not agree with the solution that we landed on. It might have been your idea, might not be totally in agreement with it, but I'm going to support it now. And we're going to move forward.
That's where a platform like EOS is so powerful, where you can ideate, right?
Yeah.
Those issues.
Puts those things on the table. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Another question, Paul Amundsen asks, interested in both your observations on what differences, commonalities you see with respect to vision, culture, and values in respective businesses.
I think we're aligned in the sense that we both agree that culture starts with core values. They have a set of core values. We have a set of core values. They're different. But I think we also have put an emphasis on it. We've focused on it. There's, they talk about people first. We just talk about venture collaboration and integrity, but very much this better every day concept, this growth mindset of getting 1% better. And so those things can live together. I think we learned as in that kind of courting, dating part. They're totally different though. And I think we recognize that they're different, right? I think we have, we have different office layouts. We have sort of, I sometimes think even ClickRain started before we did. They're just a little bit further along, a little bit older, even just like in their population of employees generally. And that's exciting too, to your point about learning from other generations, right? Like I love that we do an internship program because every year these 22-year-olds come in and they teach me so much, right, about what's going on. And so I think that's something we both have put an emphasis on.
Yeah, I would agree with you on all of that, John, and just say that right now, a lot of people call this a merger, but it hasn't felt like much of a merger yet, and we've intentionally really tried to come alongside one another, and we don't want to break Lemonly. I mean, it's pretty strong powerhouse that we don't want to mess up. So Lemonly's Lemonly's team and culture and operation has continued to run fairly much business as usual, as has Click Grains. We are looking for opportunities to intersect the two, where we can, where it makes sense, and still in the process of learning where those intersections should best be made.
Yeah.
And one thing that's kind of crazy is doing this whole thing in a pandemic, right? So Natalie and I recorded this podcast last Friday that'll go tomorrow. I hadn't seen Natalie since August, and so we did the whole deal virtually. I haven't seen Eric for months, and so it was very appropriate to like 2020 and how we did this deal. But it also means this merger part is a little different too. Sure. Kind of not messy, but like we certainly would have all been together cheersing and high-fiving if we could have. And so now we have to think about it's going to be gradual because of just the situation that we're in.
Right.
Which is okay. We're figuring that out.
Yeah, we will.
All right. Another question from Matt Paulson. What are your thoughts on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the digital agency world? Looking at the staff pages of every large agency in town, it would be difficult for anyone to say that our digital agencies are staffed by a diverse pool of talent.
Yep.
That's a great point. Great question.
I've made that same observation, Matt, and absolutely want to make steps to change that, take steps to change that. And so I'm really plugging into community conversations on this topic and really trying to figure out from the get-go of the youth in our community, how can we expose them to agency settings? How can we expose them to the careers available in our businesses? And how can we help them see the vision for themselves to be a part of those businesses someday? I just had a call yesterday with a group that is working with the diverse population in high schools and doing this very thing. So I think there's a lot of pockets of programming out there already, and I'm kind of at the point where I'm doing inventory on what's all out there and trying to figure out where best can I plug in and have an impact.
Yeah, I think we've done well from we have a female co-founder, a female creative director, which is rare, a female CEO, but certainly in that recruiting aspect, having other people realize that in these different pockets of Sioux Falls that this is a career you can pursue, right? And I think what's so cool about our industry is I don't think you have, at least we don't think in our industry, Lemonly, that you have to have like the certain degree to be successful at Lemonly. Right. And so you can come with a diverse background of experience, but we need to do better about getting these opportunities in front of those folks. There's a phenomenal organization out of Minneapolis called Brand Lab that we've done some pro bono work. So they get into the high school. Right now it's just Minneapolis and Kansas City, but we got to see if we can get them here. So they get into the high school, putting like agency experiences and internships at that level to start to show people that this could be a career path.
Absolutely. We just recently hosted a conversation with Black entrepreneurs, and the biggest nugget of information I got from them was that we also need to go have a seat at their tables, sit on their boards, and experience, that side of it too. So I think another piece of this is us, like reaching out and expanding our networks and making ourselves, more available. And I see that for our entrepreneurial community as well. We've seen some headway here, but there's a lot more work to be done. And I appreciate both of your willingness and leadership in that area. It's important. 40% of our student population are people of color, as opposed to 5% back in the 90s when we went to school. It's just it's eye-opening. So we've got work to do, but I feel really great about where we're headed as a community for sure. So what else do we have up here? Wendy Dooley from Facebook. Could you talk about what bringing your workforces together looks like? Is that already happening? And will there be one physical location?
Go for it.
So it's been mostly running alongside each other thus far. We've had a few opportunities to sort of insource some work from company to company. So, our teams have not necessarily merged all together at this point. We definitely will come together under one roof at some point, but now to the topic of what does the workplace look like in the future, it will not be 65-ish of us under one roof. It'll be a more dynamic environment where we have people available to be in the office or to work remote, more flexible. And we've learned over the course of the last year, as many of you have, of course, that that's totally doable. And flexibility is a currency to our team. You know, that is one of the top things that they demand, and it works. So we're gonna see more of that. But we will be under one roof, at least for those people in the office. More than likely still operating side by side. You know, ideally we have a space that has a dedicated area for Lemonly, a dedicated area for ClickRain, and some shared co-space as well.
I want to add, like, the only thing I'll add from a tactical standpoint, we've already started, bringing in ClickRain talent on Lemonly projects. We used to freelance out development. We didn't have that job role at Lemonly. So that's even created an efficiency from just a project standpoint. And so we're just starting to scratch the surface. I know they've had clients ask about, hey, can we use Lemonly's services? So I've they created the term of, we're very nationally specific and they're very regionally broad. So we're starting to figure out how those things can fit together from a work standpoint. But from an office standpoint, I'm excited to reinvent what an office looks like in 2022.
That's exciting. So hopefully in downtown.
That's our hope.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. All right, another question. Trish Doan, she says, first of all, congratulations. I think I can speak for everyone that you are both very inspirational, and she's excited to see your future. Her question would be, once you as leaders made the decision to align together, how did you handle communication with your employees? How have your teams received it with possible uncertainties and roles, and what that means for everyone's future? Great question.
Well, I was on the marketing subcommittee. I was the chair of the marketing subcommittee.
Strike teams, as Eric likes to call them.
Yep. And so it was really my duty, along with a couple of others, to pull together the communication plan. And important to all of us that we communicate wisely with our team. So in both companies, we brought the leadership teams in first, about a week in advance of the whole teams, and let them know what the plans were. And really, kind of pitched it to them in a way, and all the benefits of it, and tried to think about it from all angles and their point of view, and allowed them to a little time to process before we asked them to help us develop the public rollout package. So I think actually for our leadership teams, it was important for them to get hands-on with the work. And so once they started creating the communication stuff that would go public, the landing page and the ad sets and the messaging, they got really excited. But with any big announcement, big change, there was a little bit of shock right at first, at least on our end.
This is definitely the part when I said it can be an emotional process that was hard for me. So even in 2020, we started these conversations in January, and there were days, like my wife can attest, all the way up to almost Christmas, where I was like, this isn't going to happen. This is going to happen, like on alternating days, or even sometimes in the same day. And so that was hard in meetings with these people who come to work with you, for you every day during 2020. And this was going on sort of on the side, but I couldn't tell them. That I found that very difficult as a leader to we're very open, honest, ask any question you want at Lemonly. So that was difficult. But yeah, on January 11th, I'll remember that day forever when we did the Zoom and told our team. I just put it all out there and was very honest about why we did this and what this means for you. I think Eric said the great line is we have to make sure people don't feel like we're moving their cheese, right? And so everything from a benefits or a policy standpoint at Lemonly was either the same or better. So if ClickRain had something better, we took it. If we had something better, they let us keep it. And so that was great from an employee standpoint. And you just have to focus on, as a leader, why this is good for you. They don't care about what it means for me at the end of the day. And so what does this mean for Lemonly and Lemonly's future? And Amy and I are convinced that we will now be a 20, maybe 30-year-old company, because of this. And so we focused on that.
That's great. I have another question, and I think a lot of people are asking this question, but what's next for you, Mr. John Meyer?
Yeah, that's been the big question. I don't have an answer. So I certainly that was part of this decision too, deciding what I want to do next. Somebody's
Greg Koch and I are right here.
Yes.
In that spirit of better every day, I'm very motivated by always challenging myself and to do something new. And there was a time maybe where I felt like Lemonly started to feel comfortable. And so I could have done this for the rest of my career and had a great life. And there's nothing I enjoy more than working with this group of people. But I just decided I was ready for a new challenge. And so some days I want to hit the reset button and start it all over again and maybe build something different, maybe a product versus a service. I've explored that. I've gotten more LinkedIn messages than I was maybe prepared for. I hadn't thought about that. When you own a business, nobody asks you if you want a job. No. But when you have announced that you've sold your business, then people do ask you if you want a job. So I don't know. We'll just filter through that. These guys have been great to let me keep my job for the year, both for helping the transition and making sure everybody is happy and wants to stick around. And we see the future of this new organization. And I'm just going to step back and kind of observe.
Yeah. And I'm really lucky to have John join our executive team for the year and get his insight on what we have going on at ClickGreen and across the whole enterprise now, tying things together, but also just new ideas for what we have going at ClickGreen.
Yeah. Yeah, we might need to chat, John.
Free agent.
Free agent. Also, are you running any marathons anytime soon? That was Greg's other question.
Greg, I was Greg on the Instagram DMs. I'm going to try it. My goal for March is to run the loop.
Yeah.
And he tells me if I start at 6:05, then you get a shirt. So that's probably worth it.
You mean the loop? What's the loop?
Like not the original.
I was going to say what?
The bike trail loop.
I could run the loop.
Yeah, me too.
So you start at 6:05 and you get on the bike trail, and then I think it's like 19 miles.
Okay.
Not quite a marathon.
Okay.
I saw he shared earlier the Skedaddle. I think
Yeah.
that's another event. It's coming up in spring, which would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone's just saying that they have to leave. Let's see. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, because it's Sioux Falls Entrepreneurship Day, what is our startup community missing that could propel us forward post-pandemic in support of the next generation of entrepreneurs? Or what are we doing now that we need to be doing more of, I guess?
I'm going to hand that to you, John.
I think I thought your point was really accurate about young professionals, about like being okay with where you're at and recognizing like there are moments in life for transition. But the caveat I'll add is, I always say nobody made me CEO. I just like went to the South Dakota State, Secretary of State, paid the $150, started a business, opened a bank account, and then I became CEO. So everything I've learned about being a leader or running a company has been from doing it, right? And so I'm a big believer that you don't have to wait for permission, that if you feel compelled, and this is what 1 Million Cups is all about, go for it, right? And you don't also have to quit your job or, mortgage your house. It can be nights, it can be weekends, it can be side hustle. I always say, if you're curious and about starting a business, don't have coffee with me, because I will convince you to do it. And I just think it's the greatest. Sure, there's potential financial freedom, but it's really the freedom of pursuing the things that make you happy, the things that challenge you, the things that make you better. And so really, like, the question, I guess, what do we need more of? We need more entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And whatever that title means to you, I don't care about that. It doesn't mean raising 50 million and having 1,000 employees. It could be a one-person show. Whatever it means to you, go for it. I think that's my answer.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate the conversation today, your leadership, your story. It's amazing. Last question we always ask is, what can this 1 Million Cups community do to help support you in your ventures moving forward?
Well, part of our purpose as a company is putting people first and building these cultures where the workplace can be a real energizer to people's lives. And, that's something that, I don't want to put ourselves out of business, but I think more companies should be like that. And I would like to see that become more of the norm than the exception. And I think we've come a long way in that avenue. So if you have a company, I would just encourage you to build it up in that way. And if you have any questions or would like to visit about it, let's get together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect answer. I mean, if what can you do for us? I guess start more companies. If you have questions about what it's like to go through the M&A process, either on the selling or the buying side, I know Natalie would be very available too. I think that's one thing we wanted to do today was just sort of put what happened on the table and talk about it, because it's kind of a taboo topic that you don't often hear about. But I know a lot of people wonder, like, is there a finish line for my business and what does that look like? So I'm happy to be available to anybody who might have questions.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we just want to thank a few of our sponsors this morning: Market Beat, the First National Bank in Sioux Falls, Pinnacle Productions, and Zeal Center for Entrepreneurship. Thank you to the Kauffman Foundation and our organizing committee, our current organizing committee, which is Sadie Swear, Peter Hauk, Matt Paulson, John Meyer, and Maureen Ohm. What's coming up next? Next week, March 10th, Brandon Maddox with Silencer Central. March 17th, Walter Ports of Helen's Plan. March 24th, Tyler Brockle of Trigger Interactive. March 31st, Mark Stavanger of Severance Brewing Company, and April 7th, Brandon DeYoung of the Hello Hi. We've got quite the lineup ahead. If you are interested in presenting or know someone who would make a great presenter, visit 1millioncups.com/Sioux Falls and apply to present, or reach out to any of our organizing members. And please keep your eyes glued to the Zeal Center and Startup Sioux Falls Facebook page today for special messages, video drops throughout the day, and then please join us at Fernson Brewery on the north side of town at 4 o'clock for a social. We'll have beers, we'll have snacks, tours of the brewery, and we might even get to hear a little bit from the founders of Fernson, who have a great story as well. Thank you so much for being here this morning. If you want to take further part in the startup community, sign up for our email list at startupsiouxfalls.com. Follow us on Facebook. We've also got a Facebook group of nearly 8,000 entrepreneurs at Startup Sioux Falls. Again, happy Sioux Falls Entrepreneurship Day. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.